Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Exploring Creative Minds podcast. I'm your host, Judah Hooper. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Eric Hernandez, who is a sound engineer who's worked with many different artists, up to including the Dooge, which, that band sucks, though. But he's done, great bands like Blue Velvet Drapes and many other awesome indie pop bands like that. So, thank you for doing this, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Like truly, I really do enjoy talking about it. Just almost to an extent where I think I might annoy some people, but that's beside the point.
So, what got you interested in sound engineering?
um, kind of necessity. I was in a metal band for a while,
What?
and then yeah,
Uh,
I was the double bass and everything. Yeah,
what?
straight on metal band,
I didn't know that.
and and yeah, and so we needed music recorded, and so there was a point where Samash gave you $10 gift cards for doing their open mics, and so we would go, and they would give us all a $10 gift card because it's like, oh, you're a band, you're four people, that's 10 each. I was like, we were expecting
Sick.
10 collectively, and so we just kept doing that, and then we were able to save up enough gift cards to buy like a little 2-channel PreSonus interface.
Really?
And
What?
yeah, and then we got one microphone, and I recorded the whole thing on one mic, and I loved that process.
Wow.
And people said it sounded really good, but people are liars.
How old were you when you were in this metal band? Is
um,
college age or high school or?
yeah, I was probably I would say 17.
Okay.
It was senior year of high school, and I was 17 because I'm a November baby.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's crazy. I didn't know you were in a metal band, Eric. That's crazy. You played the drums. I knew you played the drums for sure. So wow. Wow. And so what equipment did you have when you like first started doing it at that point?
Yeah, the little 2-channel PreSonus interface and
Mm.
an SM58, and that was it.
Wow. And then you
And
you
then
you recorded everything through there, like,
yeah,
vocals and
yeah, it's
all
just
that
all
stuff.
individually. And then recording drums was the funniest thing ever because it's like one microphone for drums is very interesting. and and I remember having to figure out. I was like, the most important thing about this is that double bass and the snare. And so figuring out a position where that was the most prominent thing and going from there just with one microphone.
Wow, so you recorded each of the drum parts like individually with the same mic? Is that how you did it,
No,
or
no, no,
just
just
like the
like
whole thing?
just like one mic pointing. What I pointed it, well, one mic above pointing at the snare, and that was it. And so it would capture more or less everything.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then did you guys write like your songs or did you do covers or?
Yeah. So we had a songwriter. I would say he wrote the songs.
Mm,
I wouldn't say I wrote the songs. I would say he wrote the songs,
right.
and I just play drums.
So you guys like did you guys like arrange it together? Is that how you
Y-
sort of did it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like we would just jam in a room together and figure out. I was like, okay, I have this riff. It's like okay, and then just build off that. I think like
Mm,
I feel like that's how most metal bands would do it, but I don't know.
right. Did you have like a favorite metal band?
Oh,
Uh,
Iron Maiden is my favorite band of
Iron
all
Maiden?
time. Iron Maiden is my yeah.
Okay.
That's literally the first song I learned on drums.
Well, that's a hard one.
Cause yeah,
It's intense
and
the whole time.
I made an effort to learn it on one foot out of respect. Cause like he would only do it with one foot, and so a lot of like the triplet stuff, I forced myself to learn it on one foot.
Wow. You're tired after you finish playing that song. Gataruba.
Yeah,
It's well, how did you start with drums? Did you like how did you start drums?
rock band,
Rock band.
rock band.
Like
My
the
dad got me. Yeah, and I really liked playing. So I had played Guitar Hero, and then one Christmas my dad got us Rock Band, which had the drums in it. And so I had always enjoyed playing the electric guitar version of it. I was like, okay, let me try out the drums on this, and I fell in love with that so hard.
Mm.
Um, it's the only time I like pushed with guitar. The only thing I would ever do is like normal or medium difficulty, but with the drums, I kept pushing it and pushing it because I enjoyed it a lot more.
Mm.
And then eventually, I was just like, I want a real kit, and I got a real kit.
You got a real kit?
Yeah,
Or
and I
wow.
and went from there. Oh,
Hey, I have no idea what just happened. That was
the
weird.
the disconnecting noise is kind of funny. It's like a little laser beam.
Really?
It's like,
Pew!
pew. Yeah, it's literally like that. That's literally what it sounds like.
Like Star Wars or something. I have no idea what just happened. It's quality check. Rip. Anyways, sorry about that. So were your parents supportive towards your gifts as a musician or?
Yeah, fortunately, my parents have always been super supportive of anything I've wanted to do. And
Mm.
so when I tell my dad, um, I want to play drums, and he's like, "All right, let's look into the cost and how to make that happen and such." And yeah, he was never like, no, they're too loud, they're too expensive. No, it was just like it was instantly like, all right, sure.
That's
That's yeah,
awesome. Very cool.
yeah, very fortunate, very fortunate.
What um what would you say is your like your biggest goal at this point now that, you know,
My biggest
where
goal
you're
at
at?
this point is just um help make good music. Truly, that's really it. Um, I just found a passion in helping others with their music, and it works particularly well when I also resonate with their music
Mm.
because we all have tastes and such, and um, when my tastes align with the people I'm working with, that's incredibly like, yes,
Yeah.
and it's fulfilling.
Right. Mm. What do you look for in like an artist, you know?
Oh man, that's a good question. What do I look for in an artist? Let's see. Um, Dedication. Oh man, there's so many aspects to it. I'm thinking beyond even the music itself,
Right.
because
Yeah.
an artist can have great songs and such,
Be an
but if they
asshole
are a
though.
pain to work, yeah, if they're a pain to work with, I've had that where I'm like, I like your music, man, but you are hard to work with.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and so I think trust, to be honest, what I would say is trust, because you're coming to me having already heard what I do, and to trust me with your music to realize that I want the same end goal,
Mm.
and being able to give up some liberties, some control to me, and trusting my ability to handle your music.
Right. Okay, so you said trust. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's definitely a good point that there's the result of the product and then there's like the process of getting there. And so they're both important. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to work with someone who's like, you know, very, like you said, controlling and they have like no respect for what you do and what you're contributing. And they're just like, come on, let's get this over with. So it's so true. The process is just as important because it ultimately that makes the product what it is, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I My favorite thing about working with certain artists, or at least the artists that I continuously work with, it's usually when they allow me to take away parts that they created. And that
Mm.
takes a lot of like ego, to like let go of your ego, to realize I'm like, the part you made is cool, but it's distracting from the very main part, and having them go, okay, you're right. Let's let whatever the main focus of that section be the focus. And at the end of the day, they usually end up loving it. They realize it's like, oh, there's more clarity to this. It's more intent. always
Yeah,
intent.
there you go.
Always that always it always comes back to that. You can add a bunch of cool parts and everything, but if the intent is a really soft spoken lyric or something, you're missing a little bit of the point.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the things when we worked with you that I noticed that, like, okay, you cared about the song, and like the product of the song sort of thing. It wasn't just like, okay, like, what do you want? Let's get this over with. Come on, let's go. Because there are some sound engineers that are, they're just there for money, kind of thing. I've met a few that are like that, where they'll
Yeah.
help you, they'll give you what you want for money, but they don't really care about it beyond just like, that sort of thing. You know.
Yeah, beyond the transaction.
Yeah, I really liked the creative energy that you had, and so we kind of, I feel like we bounced off each other well in that way. And
I
there's a lot of
agree. I
things
agree.
that, yeah, there were a lot
Yeah.
of things that like weren't in the demo that we made, that like we came up with when we recorded. Sorry, like there was the day that we were recording it, we came up with the oohs and the ahs, and my different little like guitar parts, and then Josiah did the xylophone, and that was all just recording with you. That was not planned or anything. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun to do that.
it's just what the song asked for, or what I felt the song was asking for.
Yeah, and I remember you did like you had like an idea to do like this like grungy kind of like synth part for like the bridge,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
do you remember
Again,
that?
the trust. I asked you. I'm like, I'm gonna try something weird, and you're
Mm,
like, okay, go for it. Like you didn't go. Oh, I might not like it. You could have not liked it, but we would
yeah,
have not known if we didn't try. And yeah, we
exactly.
tried the synth thing, and you're like, I really like that.
It added
And
so much. It's like I
yeah,
remember
it's
that.
just
I
the
never
energy.
forget that.
Yeah. And so again, there was trust there.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience, and it was cool that we worked on it like the whole day. Like that was a fun experience too, because a lot of times you're worrying about the time when you work with like a sound engineer. You're like, oh crap, like it's been past 2 hours. They're gonna charge me whatever, another few $100s, and I have to worry about that. And I'm not even thinking about the song. But
Yeah,
you know
I
it
agree.
it wasn't like that with you. There was like a sense of like, no, let's create something. You know,
Then
um,
yeah, that's
you
the
know.
goal. That's
Um,
why I very firmly believe in pay by project more than hourly pay.
right.
At
Yeah.
least for at least for instances like this.
Right. Um, what do you think about like the music industry in general? Speaking of that.
What do I think about the Oh, I might get controversial.
It
um
sucks.
the music industry is a business.
Hmm.
That's at its core it's just always about money, and it's unfortunate that that's the case. But also liberating in some ways when you realize that it's really just about so your art, isn't any less worthwhile if it's not making money, if that makes sense.
You're right.
Because I mean they're only producing the artists they produce because it generates the most money.
Hmm.
The music you're making, how beautiful it might be, it's just not profitable, and that doesn't take away from its meaning, from its significance and such.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I feel like there's like this sense in the music industry of like, yeah, like they just look at how much revenue are you generating, or how high is your fan base, and otherwise it's like they don't care. I feel like
Yeah,
there's that kind of
yeah.
vibe.
I mean, I I don't know if I would think, but I'm not sure that most music industry people are not really in music.
Right. It's
I
true.
would think that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I would think them more to be business people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it makes sense. You do need that side, but it's like when you look at like the most famous artists nowadays specifically, it's like very kind of basic, conventional, familiar type of stuff. Like when you look like, okay, the top 10 artists out right now, it's like, okay, they're not all bad, but they're not they're not really breaking any new ground here. Like
Y-
they're not or
the
even
way I describe
trying.
it is they sound good, but they're not saying anything.
Ooh, whoa. They sound good, but they're not saying anything. What do you mean by that?
Just there's no depth to the lyrics of oftentimes.
Mm,
Because I don't think they're writing the lyrics. So if there's no intimacy, if there's no vulnerability, I feel like you're not really saying anything.
mm. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You have like certain songs from artists where it's like, okay, this is just like a product. This is,
Yeah, yeah.
like you're just talking about like, I don't know, whatever, twerking or something, You're not talking about anything like that means something. It's, there are those party songs that, um, it's like, duh, 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 the whole time.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's like, all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
you
I get
know,
what you mean.
um, it's weird. It doesn't feel like it was always like that though, right? Like, like I don't know if you look at like, let's go way back, like I don't know, the '60s or something. Like, and you look at the top artists then, like, okay, you have like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Jimi Hendrix, Elvis. It's not; those are like the top artists of there. You
Yeah, yeah.
know, and then you look at it now, and it's like, womp womp. Like what happened. I feel like there was a happy medium, especially with bands like the Beach Boys and the Beatles. There's like, they experimented a lot too, and they had like pop songs. And now we have fewer artists like that, I feel, in like the
Yeah,
top,
no. Yeah,
in the
no.
top.
I totally agree. I think it's just human nature to like overreach. And
Right.
we kind of just kill everything by overreaching. Truly.
Yeah, it's sad. I wish there was like a better balance because it felt like there was at a different time, you know. But it's also like, where is it going to? Because it's like, I feel like it's in this sort of lost limbo point, or a lot of people like us, like we have like our sort of like indie genre of people
Hmm.
that we
Hmm.
know and talk to and enjoy listening to, and then like barely pay attention to even like the huge ones really, So it's like maybe I guess it's the time for that, the time for like indie pop and stuff like
Yeah, I
that,
mean,
indie artists. But
there's a reason I don't buy concert tickets for big artists. I'd rather go to 10 local shows than one big artist, and that's just, I mean, that's the best way I feel like I can do my part, which is with money.
mm,
Give my money to the local artists instead of the big artists.
yeah, I feel that like honestly they're more fun to me,
I
especially
I
as
agree. I
I
wholeheartedly
guess
agree.
as people that make music, it's like there's something more fun about like being in a room with like whatever, a couple of hundred people in like a bar, and stuff. And it's cool to be able to talk to the artist and kind of learn about their stories and stuff. Like I like that more than like being in, I don't know, the forum with like millions of people and
Yeah,
you're like
I like it
super
because
far in the
it's
back.
yeah, yeah.
you know.
It's personal. Because after
There
the
we
show,
go.
if there was a song that resonated with you, you can go up to the artist and go like, "Tell me about this song," and then they'll go, "Oh, it was during this time," and they'll tell you. I
Hmm.
can't imagine an artist
None of
not
your
being.
business.
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine that. Maybe there are some, but in my experience, whenever I go up to an artist and try to talk to them, they're pretty open to talking about it because it's like, oh, why? Do you want to talk about my art? Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just there exactly. That's a great way to put it, Eric. It's more personal. There's something to that, It's yeah, I enjoy that way more. Way more. And yeah, a lot of concerts when it's a big artist, they get really really loud and obnoxious and sometimes you can barely even hear the sound, or the sound's like too loud. It's like never, the sound's like super loud because it's in a place like the Forum or something where it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh yeah, freaking hundreds of thousands of people, and then like, yeah, and then you hear people like screaming and like, yeah, it's like you said, it's not as personal when you do stuff like that.
yeah. It's more of a. I think it becomes more of like a social event thing, which I guess is fun.
Yeah, exactly, and it's fun. it can have its moments, but yeah, I do enjoy it more. And I'm not a big concert guy personally. Like I do like performing, obviously, but two different things for sure. Going to a concert with a ton of people versus like playing are very different experiences
Yeah, yeah,
for sure. you know. Um,
yeah.
what advice would you give to someone starting out in in music? You know.
Um, the best piece of advice that I've learned recently that has helped me with my musical, which is don't worry about what it sounds like, worry about what it feels like.
Mm. Okay.
And so that really inspired me once realizing people can make phone recordings that blow up. People can make like the cheapest sounding microphone, but if they're saying something, if they resonate with someone with if they make people feel that that transcends what it sounds like.
Mm. Yeah, well, the feeling is where everything else kind of comes from. Like that's like the base, the BASE of what everything else is. Like what are you going for? Like you said, the intent, the the feeling is the most important thing. And then it's like, okay, the sounds are serving the intent of that feeling you're going for. So it can't be like, okay, like you said, it can't be like, okay, like I want this to sound good. Where you're like, okay, what does it mean? Like, like I'm gonna make it sound good, but
Mm-hmm.
like, what are you going for? That's more important,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Like because
Make it sound good.
each
you know.
frequency has like its vibe. Lower
Mm,
frequencies are warmer, they're soothing. Higher frequencies are more aggressive, they're biting. And so if you're making a very soft ballad, you want less high frequencies, you know? That's your intent.
mm,
You want that's what it feels like. It feels warm, it feels cuz when someone listens to music, people who aren't engineers, they don't go, "Oh, this has too much 2K. This has too much." They'll go, "Oh, this
right.
is too bright." Or this is
Mm,
too they react like that, like, oh, it's hurting my ears, or I can't hear what they're
yeah.
saying. And again, these are all things that aren't really about what it sounds like, it's how it feels.
Mm. And yeah, there's like a surprising amount that I've realized is kind of like it's subjective, right? To like what you're going for. There isn't like okay, this is the way that every song has to be. It's like, no, like, what are you going for? Like, obviously, we need to hear it, the main things in the mix and stuff like that. But it's like there's a surprising amount that is like subjective. I've realized, um,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
is
it's
very cool.
that which is why it's kind of yeah, it's kind of hard to make a bad mix almost,
Mm, right.
as long as it's not overly offensive in anything. You can kind of like, I mean, I remember seeing this one video, great songs with bad mixes, and that was the video that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, these are great songs, and
Mm,
objectively, if I'm thinking about it as an audio engineer, they do kind of sound bad. But I would that wouldn't stop me from listening to it ever,
right.
because
Right.
they're just such good songs.
Do you have any crazy like stories of working with different artists? Like, you don't have to name them, of course, but that like I don't know, maybe they were disagreeing with you on something, or maybe something went wrong, like an instrument broke, or I don't know, something like
Um,
that.
Nothing ever too crazy. The most intense is just someone who had like a very very strict workout schedule, and so their phone rang. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, dude, I gotta do my push-ups. I'm like, all right, go ahead, and just started
Wait,
doing push-ups.
workout? Like,
Yeah,
wait, what? They
yeah,
were
he just
like working out. Like he's a singer? Was he the
yeah, he was a
guitarist?
singer. Yeah, he
And
was
he
a
was like, "Hold
singer.
on, I gotta do my reps, bro."
Yeah, he just had a phone. Yeah, more or less. I'm like, all right, go ahead, man. I, that's probably like the weirdest. It's just yeah, the strict workout schedule. Like, well, props to you for sticking to it to that extent. That's pretty cool.
So in the middle of recording, like, hold on, bro, give me a second.
Yeah, that's literally what it was like.
And
Like
you're
in the
like, all
middle, we
right.
had done a verse, and then it's like, all right, and he just starts doing push-ups. I'm like, all right. I'm just looking at my screen.
That's crazy, dude. um, would you say like, when you say like your goal is to like help people make music, do you want to build like an empire, like really build up Soundcast Studios into like a franchise, or like like in terms of that sort of stuff, like what would you want? You know.
Truthfully, honestly, where I'm at now, at the pace I'm going, but I don't think I'd ever want to do like an empire thing. I've always liked the idea of staying small and relatively unknown. I'm a little bit afraid of the limelight, to be honest. And
What?
so
Yeah.
if I could stay relatively unknown but just be happy with the work I'm doing, I think I'll be fine.
Mm, okay.
Because I'll just know a few people. I mean, I met you,
Hmm.
and I'd rather have those connections than building up an empire and talking. Oh man, talking to all those people sounds like
Right.
a lot of work.
Yeah, and then yeah, I get it, and you don't want to like you know lose, I guess, sight of like what you were before, like where you're just like a boss CEO sort of thing. Like you're not interested in that. Like, oh, I want to be a CEO of other engineers doing different stuff, and like that's not why you're doing it. So.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the most I can think of is I've always considered the idea of a record label because I'm really good with money, and a record
Mm.
label is just really money. Um, that's always been on the back of my mind. Maybe one day, but I've never, I never felt like I've never even gotten close to pulling the trigger on it. It's always just been an idea.
Mm.
I was like, if I can just sign my friends and we just like have this pile of money and we just work from it and see what happens. And that's the extent of the thought.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's more or less the extent of it. Because I thought I was like, all right, what else could be beyond this? And it's like a record label, kind of. There's a lot of people. I mean,
Mm,
like Sound City.
mm.
They were originally just a studio, and then they opened the record label and went from there. So it's
Right,
a it's like a realistic jump off point.
right. Yeah, no, I mean, that would be cool. It would be cool. you know, um, I feel like that's a good. It's good that like success to you is not just like a crap ton of like money and cars and women and stuff like that. Because I feel like that's another important thing as an artist in general. Like regardless of the creative field, like you can't be obsessed with just the idea of success, um, in itself. You know what I mean? Like this sense of like, man, I've met certain artists that are like that. Not many, obviously, but there's a sense of
Mhm.
like they're more obsessed with the idea. Like okay, I want to be a rock star. I want to be, the biggest that ever existed ever.
Yeah.
And so they're more. That's their goal. It's not. It's not to create. It's like to create so they can reach this made up thing of success that they have a standard for themselves.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
dangerous.
I think yeah, but I guess but success is defined by everyone. And I mean, if you think have you millions of dollars or it's just I mean, you'll find out eventually when you hit it, you'll realize if it is or it isn't.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like that would be empty, Like obviously it would be nice to have $1 million, but it's like, okay, uh, you know, I mean, how long is that how well, that fad, how long would that last? This sort of like, okay, I'm happy now. Why? You got everything you wanted to, yeah, it's like I feel like yeah, it's like dangerous, It's like the being obsessed with that because it's like you lose sight of, I guess, what's important about life, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think a good point in life is realizing what is enough. And I feel like most people don't yeah, don't realize what is enough. What would actually be enough to them.
mm,
I remember
right,
Jim Carrey left uh he stopped acting. That's what he said. He's like, I am enough, I have enough, I'm good. And I was like, no one ever says that.
right.
He's like, yeah, I'm out. I don't need to do anymore. I'm good. I respect that so much to realize I have enough. I'm chilling. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very smart thing to say. Yeah, like what is enough? Knowing what is enough. What will be enough? And what does that look like? And what does happiness look like to you more than success?
Yeah,
What is
yeah,
happiness to you? Because success does not bring you happiness. Hate to break it to anybody, but success in itself it's like temporary. Like you're like,
it is.
wow, that's it. you know
Yeah, you get a bit of a dopamine hit, and then you level out.
exactly. And so it's like, okay, you know it, you have to find happiness within yourself first. Um, bef- you know, 'cause- yeah. It's interesting to think about. Um, what would you say is like the 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 best album of all time to you, or do you have like a list?
I have a couple of like top lists.
Okay.
Oh man, because it's dependent on one of my favorite albums. Is Random Access Memory, Daft Punk. I think that album
Mm,
encompasses a lot of what production is,
okay.
and I really love how that album sounds. It's
Yeah,
so
that's a good
clean,
one.
it's so clear, it's so impactful. It's just so good. It's so good.
I miss Daft Punk. Rip.
Rip, rip for real. They'll
They
do a
were,
comeback tour and they'll make a lot of money.
dude. Yeah, they were such a unique like voice. There's like nothing like Daft Punk really, like in the way that they did it. You know, and all these other like subgenres like future funk and that kind of stuff like EDM and like wouldn't exist in the same way without the stuff that Daft Punk did throughout
Yeah, yeah, I can agree
the
with
2000s. Um, any other ones?
that. Another one that I really like, Jimmy Eat World Bleed American. Just that goes to more my like pop punk side, which is the music I really like as well, and which translates to my mixes. I always think of that. I'm like,
Mm,
how did they get that impact? How did they make that record feel the way it did? And I draw a lot of inspiration for that one as well.
nice, nice. What are you listening to now?
What am I listening to now?
Yeah.
Um, Discover Weekly.
Okay.
To be honest, that's kind of my go-to recently. Just Discover Weekly and letting the algorithm decide what I listen to.
Whoa, really? So you kind of how often do you do that?
That
Every
well, the
week?
Discover Weekly changes every week, so yeah,
Got
every
it.
week I kind of put it on repeat and just listen to that.
Okay.
Um, that is that, and yeah, yeah, Discover Weekly. I haven't been vibing with anything particularly recently.
That's interesting because I know for me I listen to like maybe I'll check out like an album and then I'll keep going until I find something I really 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 like and then I'll listen to that for like a good month or so. I've noticed that that's what I kind of do. It's like
Mm,
you listen to an album, you're like, okay, there's like respecting an album for like the technical of it, and then like there's like really really connecting to it
mm-hmm.
sort of thing. There's like they're not the same. It's nice when
Yeah,
it's the both, but
yeah.
so yeah, I usually scramble until I find like an album or a song, a few songs from an album, which is usually what it is with albums. Usually it's like three or four songs that you like in it, typically in albums. So once I find that, I'll listen to that for like a while, until I move on to something else.
Now that you say that, actually, yeah, the thing I had on repeat was an album a few months ago. A Day to Remember's Homesick.
Okay, never heard
Because
of it.
I listen to albums, and so
Mm.
I haven't been recommended like I haven't stumbled upon an album. Um, but usually, yeah, my go-to thing is listening to albums,
Yeah, they're like
and
the
so
most satisfying, like
I
when they're
think
done
so.
well. You know,
Yeah, I think it's a mood. It's a longer mood.
it is, and well, it's interesting how there are certain albums that like they have like one vibe, and then there are other albums where like they try out a bunch of different things.
Hmm
You
hmm
know, It's I've always found that very interesting. And then there are some albums that somehow do both, where they try out a bunch of different things, but they all kind of have a similar vibe. You know?
Yeah, like
Um,
a motif.
yeah, like I guess you say that concept albums do that, which I'd love
Mm.
to make. I'd love to make a concept album for sure. That's like the peak of music, concept album. You know?
Oh,
you
so
know?
much planning. There's so much planning involved in that, I would imagine.
Yeah, it would be fun to work on that for like a straight week. Like you're working on like doing this concept album, like and like coming up with different sounds and all that kind of stuff, and how everything's gonna flow with each other, and that'd
Yeah.
be so fun. You know, like man, that'd be fun.
You're getting
you
excited
know,
just thinking about it.
yeah, dude. I love the idea. That's definitely a goal for sure. Is to make a concept album at some point, something like that, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but okay, well, thank you for doing this, Eric.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for having me, man.
Um,
I very much enjoy talking about this stuff.
yeah, me too. Um, I'll um, I'll listen to whatever record next with artists and stuff. I try to keep in the loop with
I
like who you're
appreciate that.
working with and all that
I
stuff.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.